Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I'm delighted to be joined here by Shay Brady of the Play On GAA podcast to dissect all the weekend's club action across various provincial club football and hurling championships. Certainly a lot to discuss, a lot to break down. You have big wins in there for the likes of Clonmel in Munster, Kilcoo in Ulster, Mike Cullen putting up a big score as well in their win over Westport, and certainly some big results in hurling as well for the likes of Ballyhale and Naas as well. So joined here by Shay Brady. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by Declan Kirby GAA Star, best children's book out there in the market at the minute. Find it on Amazon, Easons, all good bookshops, so make sure to check that out when you get a chance. Shay, what's the crack with yourself? You keeping well?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Another great weekend of the club championship, a lot of action. Some surprises in there, and then some mad scenes as well from different club games across the country. Looking forward to getting into it.
Definitely, yeah. We'll definitely discuss some of the fighting that happened here in Parnell Park at some point as well. Definitely a lot of craziness over the weekend. But I suppose we'll start with the game on Saturday night in the Munster Club Senior Football Championship. It was Clonmel Commercials 2-15, Nemo Rangers 1-11. Definitely a result that caught a lot of people by surprise. Like when you think about it, Finbars were All Ireland, semi-finalists last year. They obviously came through Munster, beat the likes of Austin Stacks. They were favourites to come through Cork. Nemo Rangers then go and turn them over in the final. And Nemo Rangers beat them fairly convincingly and fairly comfortably as well. And just a very, very flat performance by them. But at the same time, you have to give a lot of credit to Clonmel. Jason Lonergan, Mickey Quinlivan in there, Coleman Kennedy, a lot of very, very good players, and big statement win there for Clonmel.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those where Nemo's victory kind of put them up a bit in our mind, obviously rightfully so, beating a team like Finbars. But then when they lose to Clonmel, obviously Nemo were the odds-on favourites to win. But after the dust settles and you look at Clonmel's team, you're like, this isn't really as much of a shock as people are putting it out to be. I mean, look at Clonmel's team. They've Michael O'Reilly in goal, who's a Tipperary goalkeeper. Their defence is anchored by Seamus Kennedy, a fullback who is a quality hurler, but he was on that Tip minor football team in 2011. Then their centre-back is Kevin Fahey, who is the Tipperary centre-back. Then their midfield it's Michael Quinlivan and Conal Kennedy. And then in the forwards, they have Coleman Kennedy, Jack Kennedy, Jason Lonergan, who kicked 6 points, and Sean O'Connor, who is Tipperary's main forward, really, along with Sweeney and Quinlivan when they're at their best. So it's one of those where when the dust settles and you look at it, they have a really, really strong team, Clonmel, and they won the Munster Championship in 2015. It's not really that much of a surprise. And now, they've managed to kind of fly under the radar, catch Nemo out, and I would definitely put them as serious contenders now, obviously, for the Munster Championship. I'm going to see it as pretty hard to beat them. I know that, obviously, they're going to play Newcastle West now. That's a game that they really should win if they won this game. And then they're into the final. And, they'll be coming up against either Eire Og or Cairns O'Rahilly's. They'll be coming up against the Eire Og side that only scored 2 points in the first half against Denier in the entire first half. Or they'll be coming up against Cairns O'Rahilly's, who didn't win the Kerry County Championship, so their confidence isn't the best. So it's one of those things where Clonmel, if you're talking about mindset and if you're talking about what camp would you want to be in now to win the Munster Championship, you would pick Clonmel.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a very, very dominant victory. And as you said, plenty of really, really good players from Mickey Quinlivan, Jason Lonergan, Michael O'Reilly in goal. Very, very convincing all around the pitch. And as you mentioned there, Clonmel, they've definitely put themselves in the conversation for favourites from Munster. I think Nemo Rangers were people's favourites before the game. I think Cairns O'Rahilly's very, very good side, a lot of good players, obviously Kerry champions, but we all know the sort of scenario within Kerry in terms of the county and club championship. So who knows what kind of form Kerins or Athletes are going to be going into the Munster Championship. They do have Jack Savage currently injured as well, which could be a huge blow for them. So, like, big statement for Clonmel Commercials. And are they the team to beat now in Munster in your eyes?
Yeah, I think they are. I really do, because, well, like, there's one 10-minute spell in the second half where they just completely blew Nemo away. That 10-minute spell where they hit 6 points in a row. Like, that was absolutely insane, because Nemo had kind of been threatening a comeback. They've been hitting good points here and there, but then Clonmel just absolutely steamrolled them. I mean, 6 points in a row at any stage of any game is probably going to put you in the driving seat. And that really finished off Nemo's challenge. They hit the goals at crucial stages as well. I mean, the 7th minute, Sean O'Connor hits one, 18th minute, Coleman Kennedy hits the second one. And that had them ahead at halftime by 2-4-6. And then, you know, as I mentioned, Nemo had kind of been threatening the comeback. But then to be able to put them to the sword like that with 6 points in a row at a time when they were, you know, potentially being pulled back in, I thought that 10-minute spell was just breathtaking. I thought they're absolutely brilliant. One thing that is a caveat to this performance is the news about Jason Lonergan. Obviously that he's, you know, going to the US. Like, if he does go, that's a huge loss, because he was absolutely fantastic in this game. 6 points, as we mentioned. That could be maybe a bit of a downside to this, because if he's gone, definitely they're not as strong as they were in this game.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, actually. So that'll certainly be a big blow if he does go off to the US. And I suppose from an Nemo Rangers point of view, like, definitely, you know, surprising from their point of view, like, fairly flat performance throughout, really. Like, Luke Connolly was good, I felt, on the freeze, but other than that, they couldn't really get him in the game. You know, it just couldn't really stick. Like, they didn't really seem up for the fight. Even looking at the manager in his post-match interview, it nearly looked like Nemo Rangers were just happy to take part in many ways. Like, they just seemed very sort of casual throughout the game. Like, what in your eyes went wrong, do you think?
I don't know. I think, is it a little bit to do with kind of mentality, like, across the board, when you look at all different clubs that have won their county championships, that, like, they look really strong in their county and then they get out of it and then they just fall. Like, we're going to talk about Westport now, obviously, in a minute, but you wonder if the same thing happened with them, that Westport weren't fancy to win Mayo, Nemo weren't fancy to win Cork. And when they did, all of a sudden, everyone looked at their team and went, oh, like, this is a really strong team. Maybe they could go on and you know, challenge for the provincial. And then they fall at the next hurdle. Like, it was one of those things where you're looking at it thinking, even on the hurling side, Shinrone make absolute history beating, you know, winning the Offaly title, and then they get beaten out the gate by Naas the next day. With the Naas they were 4 in a row champions in Kildare, and Naas were clearly saying, Kildare is not enough for us this season. We want to go further into Leinster and we want to prove how much our hurling and Kildare hurling is on the rise. And I just wonder, is it a mentality thing that was winning the Cork championship the goal for Nemo at the start of the year, or was winning the All-Ireland the goal at the start of the year? Because for Clonmel, definitely winning Tipperary doesn't come across like it was enough for them. Definitely they seem like they want to go for Munster and beyond. So I feel like the mentality about winning your county championship, I think that might be a big thing. We saw it with Ballygunner and Kilrowan McDonough's in the hurling side, that Kilrowan bridge a 37-year gap to win the Tipperary crown. They come up against Ballygunner, who winning the Waterford championship is just the start of their season now at this stage, and Ballygunner blow them out the water. I just wonder, is it a mentality thing, that is it somewhere in the brain that when they win the county championship that they're like, okay, whatever we do past here is a bonus, rather than we're just getting started, like you would find with a Ballyhale Shamrocks in the hurling, with a Kilmacud Crokes in the football, the Kilcoo type.
Yeah, like, I think it definitely could play a part. Or I think when you look at celebrations as well, and obviously when you win a county title, like, you're entitled to celebrate and go on the beer for 2-3 days. I don't think anyone has any issues with that. But, like, maybe it is just a psychological thing. Like, I think for Nemo Rangers, they were wrote off so much in Cork. Like, there was so many people doubting them, people saying they were finished and everything else, and left, right, and centre. And, you know, going into the final against a Finbar side who obviously won the county title the season previous, but they were heavy favourites. So, like, you know, we've seen a lot of clubs sometimes, like, even some clubs create a siege mentality even when there even isn't one there. Like, I think we've seen Desi Hutchinson's interview after Ballygunner won a Waterford title, and he's saying, oh, everyone's against us and this, that, and that. I don't think anyone was ever, betting against Ballycunner to win a Waterford title. I think some clubs and managers probably just create that sort of vendetta there just so that they can sort of prove people wrong, because when you have that chip on your shoulder, you have that fire in your belly, like you're more likely to run those extra yards, you're more likely to want it that bit more. And I just wonder from an Emo Rangers perspective, like what you said, maybe that just wasn't there, and maybe having come through Cork, maybe that was just enough for them for this year.
But that's what I mean, because look how the narrative flipped. The narrative flipped from they're never going to be Finbars, they're not going to be Finbars, to, oh, they're going to win Munster. All of a sudden, everyone was singing their praises and saying, oh, well, they're going to win Munster now that they beat Finbars. And then they go out in the next round. It was one of the things that all of a sudden they weren't the underdogs. All of a sudden they weren't, being counted out. And maybe they didn't have the same fire in their belly because they weren't being doubted. Maybe they did win the Cork Championship and think, job done. Like we've won the Cork title back. Obviously, this is just speculation about their mentality. When it comes down to it, Clonmel were fantastic. Clonmel were brilliant. They really, in the first 20 minutes, hitting them 2 goals, they really were like, here, we're not messing around here. We're here to take you out. And it was in Porky Queeve as well. I mean, Nemo pretty much had home advantage. Tip's champions came in, made statements in the first 20 minutes, and then those 10-minute spell in the second half, they just blew them away. And you have to give ultimate credit to Clonmel. But I don't think Nemo's mentality was right going into the game. I think there was an element of, okay, we've done what we wanted to do this season, about their attitude.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, as you said, Nemo or Clonmel Commercial is definitely going to be serious favourites for the Munster Championship. Make no question about that. I think most people would certainly back them to get the better of Newcastle west of Limerick. The other game in Munster was Eire Og 3-11, the Noir 5 points. As you mentioned there, like this was a rather strange game from looking at, match reports and everything else, because 2 points in the first half, 3-5 in the final 15 minutes. Gavin Cooney with 2-4, Mark McInerney in there with 1-4, Darren O'Neill with a point as well. I mean, big result for Eire Og in the end, and kind of strange game, like 2 points in the first half, 3-5 in the final 15 minutes. Obviously, we'll have to see the highlights back to see what happened here, but an unusual sort of sequence of events there.
Yeah, no, I didn't see this game myself yet, but I've read, multiple match reports. The first half sounds like it was a tough watch, to be honest. I mean, if it goes in a half-time, 2 points apiece, I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, the infamous Dublin-Donegal game from 2011 that was getting booed around the stadium, that was 4 points to 2 at half-time. So, I mean, what does that tell you about how many shots were on target? I thought then Eire Og, they do have better players. So I was looking at their squad at the start, the likes of Gavin Cooney, the likes of Mark McInerney. I was saying, look, I do back them to get the job done in this game. Obviously, then the final 30 minutes, outscoring the Nair by 3-9 to 2 points. I mean, that sums it up. And that 3-5 without reply in 15 minutes, that's going to bury most teams. And for the Nair, who, they're coming from Waterford football. Waterford football needs every boost that it can get. And going into this game, if they let Eire Og get the run on them and get 3-5 without reply, it's done. And in most games, it is done. If you let your opponents hit 3-5, 14 points in a row with no reply, I don't see any game really where you survive that. So, yeah, I feel like the writing was on the wall once they let them get a run on them like that. The first half was competitive, but after that, I think it was anything but.
Yeah, and definitely, like, going back and looking at the highlights, you'd wonder sort of what happened for the Nor, like, where I'd imagine maybe they were sitting in, being defensive in the first half, and then maybe they fell behind and sort of all the shackles just sort of went off. They're obviously chasing the game and probably just left too much space in behind. Like, that's what I'd imagine probably happened, but obviously you have to go back and sort of look at the highlights. But look, it's going to be a tough game for Cairns O'Rahilly's in the semi-finals. Like, it is a banana skin type game, and neither one of us have probably seen that much of Eire Og, but as we've mentioned, like, they have a couple of good players in there, in the likes of Gavin Cooney, Darren O'Neill, Mark McInerney, like some good players who play with the Clare inter-county squad. So, look, I mean, it won't be an easy game for Cairns O'Rahilly's, make no question about that.
Yeah, because what they have shown in this game is they've shown that they have an ability to just all of a sudden start playing. I mean, yeah, I agree with you that from the sounds of it, it sounds like the Nair were sitting in deep. then I feel like Eire Og might have got the run on them a bit. And it probably came to a stage where, do we want to lose by 3 or 4 points and we didn't give it a crack? Or do we want to go for it and just kind of die on our shield? And I feel like that's what they did. But for Eire Og, the fact that they have Darren O'Neill is a potential ultimate trump card. Watch that game where Clare played against Mayo in the league. I think it was last season, that promotion game. And Clare, where I think they were 7 points down or something, they threw Darren O'Neill in around the square and they just started firing the ball in. And Darren O'Neill must be at least 6'7". Like, he's absolutely huge. And they put him in around the square and they just started firing the ball in on top of him. And they got 2 goals out of it effortlessly, pretty much. And it caused carnage in the Mayo backline. So they have that ultimate trump card that we've seen it. They have the ability to get the run on people and all of a sudden just, have almost this unstoppable momentum. But then they also have an absolute target man in Darren O'Neill that they can just throw in at any stage. So for Cairns, if Cairns are 2 points, 3 points up with a minute to go, Eire Og have one of the best target men left in the club championship that they can throw in and full forward, and that could really turn up an upset for the Bucks.
Yeah, and a midfield battle of Darren O'Neill, David Moran as well. Like, that'd be a fascinating one.
Oh yeah, definitely. Moran's one of those that, like, obviously, he wasn't playing full games for Kerry. I do think that his best days are behind him in terms of a county sense. Definitely one of the best midfielders I've seen in the past decade, make no mistake about that. But, he is the wrong side of 30 now. O'Neill coming a lot fresher, a lot younger. That could be a real interesting battle. And then obviously who picks up Gavin Cooney? Jack Savage, if he's out, that's a massive blow for Cairns. There's things lining up here that, like, a potential banana skin could be here for Cairns, particularly in the fact that, like, will they have a bit of, imposter syndrome? Because obviously I know they won the Kerry Club Championship, but they didn't win the county championship. They got beaten at least twice. I think it was 3 times. I'm not sure.
Three times, yeah.
3 times, yeah. And they're in the Munster Championship representing Kerry. Like, are they really going to feel like they've earned that 100%? Like, it's one of those interesting ones. So if Eire Og managed to rattle them early and get a run on them, anything could happen here. Like, I think it's much more of a banana skin for Cairns than people are making out.
Yeah, I actually think they lost 4 games now off the top of my head, because they lost all their games in the county championship in the group. They lost 1 game, I remember, in the club championship. I think they've only won like 2 games before extra time in the entire, like, in both championships, which is kind of bizarre. But at the same time, like how many times have we seen have teams been wrote off? And then, like, if there's a team that wants to have a chip on the shoulder, vendetta, siege mentality, all the rest, Cairns O'Reilly's would be the perfect example. And like, it wouldn't surprise you at the same time if Tommy Walsh, Barry John Keane, these lads, like, really, really turning on in that semi-final.
Yeah, because if we've seen anything from Kerry down the years, it's when everyone writes them off and says that they're done. That's when they tend to turn up. And we don't need to really think hard. For an example, that 2009 quarterfinal is a perfect example. They were nearly knocked out by Antrim. They were nearly knocked out by Sligo, and then they come to play Dublin and 124-17, one of the worst games to watch that I've ever seen. So yeah, writing off players with the ability that Barry John Keane and Tommy Walsh and David Moran have, it's a dangerous game because they can just show up and they could blow Eire Og away. They do have the talent to do that. But I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be, the conditions will probably not favour either side. And once it gets dragged into a dogfight, I feel like it will be no more than 5 points. I would probably put Cairns O'Reilly's to win, but narrowly.
Yeah, I'd probably edge towards Cairns O'Reilly's as well. But as you said, like, definitely a banana skin in more ways than one for the Kerry champions there. Looking at the Ulster Club Senior Football Championship, definitely lots of drama here. Penalty shootouts galore, really, in 2 of the matches, and all sorts of drama, really. But looking at the game that was on TG Carr yesterday, it was Whitey Graham's Glen 3-10, Eire Og Kieran 1-12. Definitely the most entertaining game, I think, of the 3 that I watched at the weekends, of all 3 games that were televised. Whitey Graham's Glen 4 points down at half time. It was a bizarre performance, really, by them in the first half, because, like, they had their opening goal should never have been given, in my opinion. I don't know how that was given, and then they should have had a penalty a couple of minutes later that wasn't given. So they'd only technically scored 2 scores in the entirety of the first half, because the first goal was an own goal and probably shouldn't have been given. There obviously was a heavy breeze, which Conor Glass alluded to. But look, 4 points down in the first half. Like Eire Og, as we've seen, very, very good side. So look, it probably does show from a Whitey Graham's Glen point of view that serious talent all across the pitch. They have the fight, they have the desire, and it's going to be tough to see who beats them this year.
That's a key point that you mentioned, that they were getting outplayed in the first half. Eire Og were better than them in the first half at pretty much every stage. But I mean, I had the halftime score here. Halftime, I think Eire Og hit 7 of the last 8 points of the first half. I mean, that's an absolutely crazy stat. Rory Canavan and Dara Canavan were just absolutely brilliant. The 12th minute goal from Tommy Canavan was fantastic. Brilliant finish. But then still, they were not clinical enough. They did not put the Glen away, and then the Glen got crucial scores at crucial stages. Those 2 goals that they got in the first half, they were just hanging in there. They wouldn't go away. I do agree with you. Pretty much any touch on the goalkeeper in Gaelic football now is a free out. So I don't know how that goal was given. He literally, the wing forward runs in and just Conor Convery just runs in and just shoulders him pretty much into the net. Then obviously the second goal from Doherty, fantastic finish. And then Ethan Doherty's goal in the second half, that leveled the sides up. That was a real indicator that Eire Og are in trouble here, because they've been on top for so long. They put together that burst of 7 of the last 8 points of the first half, and they still hadn't put the Glen away. And then the Glen had pulled them back. And I thought another key thing for the Glen was they were hitting crucial points at crucial times. I mean, off that bench, the 2 points from Stevie O'Hara, absolutely sensational points. Emmett Bradley ran through about 7 Eire Og lads and put the ball over the bar. They hit crucial points at crucial stages. And not to bring up an old cliche, but the will in this Glen team, the determination that they have, is something to behold. There's one play right at the end. I think it was the cornerback. I have him here. The cornerback, Conor Carville. He intercepted Eire Og on attack. He played a 1-2 and he sprinted down the field. If you watch the play back, he starts out on his own 13 and he sprints the entire way down the pitch to end up in a 2v1 with Conor Glass. And they really should have, put that ball in the back of the net and finished the game off. Somehow they only got a point out of that attack. I think it was Stevie O'Hara who swung the ball over the bar in the end. But that willpower, that the game was pretty much over anyway, and he had the willpower to run the entire length of the pitch just to get involved in the play, shows that there's a serious determination about the Glen this year. And you're right. The fact that they were getting outplayed that much in the first half and they still hung in there and were breathing down Eire Og necks at halftime, it shows that it's going to take something really, really special to beat them this year.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was a very, very good turnaround, as you mentioned before. And, when you have a midfield pairing of Conor Glass and Emmett Bradley, it's probably the best club pairing, best midfield pairing at club level, in my opinion. And look, from an Eire Og point of view, it's I thought they played very well. Rory Canavan was good as always. I don't know if you've seen his point where he sent one of the opposition defenders, sends him for an absolute hot dog, which is brilliant. Dara Canavan as well was brilliant, and even Tommy Canavan, the forgotten Canavan, 1-4 from him, lovely goal. I think someone was commenting on the match reaction yesterday saying that maybe he should come into the Tyrone panel. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of Eire Og to make that point of view.
Tommy's a lot more of a playmaker type. Over the Tyrone Championship, he was sitting deep and he was almost like a quarterback type. He was playing passes in. Lovely kick passer. And at centre forward, if Tyrone are looking for someone who can stitch the play together, he definitely is worth a shout.
Yeah, and I don't see the harm. I think, as you're seeing with Tyrone, there was a lot of players who were sort of opting out last year.
If Conor McKenna goes, they've lost a good few lads over the last 2 years since they won the All-Ireland. So I agree with you. I don't see the harm.
And for Whitey Graham's Glen, what do you think? Are they? I think a lot of people still have them as favourites for Ulster. We'll obviously get onto Kilcoo in a moment, but for me, when I watched them in Derry, I seen them in the Derry final, and when you look at some of the scores as well that they racked up in the Derry Championship, it never really looked like they were seriously tested throughout Derry, whereas now they've gotten a really, really tough test. They were pushed to their pin of their collar, and I think a result like this will stand to them. But what's your thoughts? Are they favourites for Ulster? like most people think, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm still going with them, but do you know what? I'm not as confident as I was. Obviously we're going to get on to Kilcoo, their victory over Ballybay. I thought they looked really, really good. But I just think there's something different about the Glen this year. I think they're more determined. They have that chip on their shoulder that the Kilcoo achieved what they wanted to achieve. They won the All Ireland, and I thought that they were actually very, very lucky to get out of the Down Championship. Now they have got out. And the first game that they've had since they've got out, they've torched a Ballybay side that beat Crossmaglen Rangers. So they do look like maybe they've turned a corner, which could set up an absolutely huge Ulster final if Kilcoo play against the Glen. I mean, that would be a must-watch game if the two of them make it through their semi-finals. Going to be very difficult. Obviously, the Kilcoo have to get past Enniskillen, and the Glen have to get past Aaron's own Cargan, who are going to be riding the crest of a wave after their victory over Naomh Conaill. But I do think that, as speaking right now, Kilcoo and the Glen will get through those two games. And then what a game that's going to be if the two of them get to the final to play against each other. Because as Conor Glass said in the post-match interview, it was just one mistake really that led to Kilcoo edging the Glen in the game last year. The Glen have, as well as having the best midfield pairing, you could probably argue that they have the best manager in the club championship. Well, definitely, I think the manager with the most credentials. I mean, Malachy O'Rourke, what is there to say about him? Like, he absolutely outstanding managerial CV. I mean, off the top of your head, can you think of anyone that would go toe to toe with him in terms of what they've done in the GAA as a manager? Like, and then the firepower that they have up front with the likes of Niall Loughlin. And then even off the bench, Stevie O'Hara at the back as well. Warnock at centre half back has just slotted in there. He looks fantastic. So with the Glen, I think they're going to be a really hard side to beat. I really do. And yeah, it would be an interesting one to see if anyone can stop them this year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, it is Aaron's own Cargan that they will play in the semi-finals. It was 2-13. It finished with Navy Conaill 2-13 apiece. Aaron's own Cargan winning on penalties. Interesting, Conor Glass in his post-match interview, he was mentioning he's lots of family on the Aaron's own Cargan side. I think he said his mother is from there. I wonder, will he step aside, do you think, for the semi-finals?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There'll be no Jerome Johnston antics going on this time. No antics. I thought Cargan looked fantastic in terms of their absolute will. I mean, twice in this game, we have to give a massive shout out to Kevin McShane. Twice in this game, Aaron's own Cargan looked like they were dead and buried. You know, he palms home to the net. Tomas McCann fires the ball into the square with, basically the last kick of the game, 60 in the 6th minute of additional time. God, I can't speak. McCann fires the ball in and palmed to the net by Kevin McShane. And then with the last kick of extra time, he hits a free to equalise it and send it to penalty. So twice they looked like they were dead and buried. Jack McKelvey fisted over a point. Last minute of extra time, I thought, that's it. Naomh Conaill surely are going to ride this one out now. And then McShane slots the free. And then they win on penalties. It's actually Aaron's own Cargans. It's their first victory in the club championship outside of Antrim at senior. So I think that is quite a feat, and they're going to be, as I said, they're going to be riding the crest of the wave, and they're going to give the Whitey Graham's Glen one hell of a crack in the next round. I wonder, will there be some cousin rivalry on show or something between Glass and his family?
Yeah, there just always is in the GAA, isn't it? Like, it's just mad how like these kind of rivalries get thrown up. Like, you even had Malachy O'Rourke, who's obviously very connected with Eire Og Kieran as well. Like, it's mad, isn't it, in the GAA? Like, I feel like the GAA is the only place where you'll see these stories where you've got two separate clubs from two separate counties in the same championship playing each other, and you've got cousins, brothers, relations, managers who know the players left, right, and center. Like, the GAA, I feel like, is the only sport organization in the world where you'll have those type of scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't see it. I mean, you could make the case really in football that, with players transferring, managers getting sacked and moving to different clubs, etc., that maybe there's a bit of, familiarity. But I feel like because there's so many players moving between different clubs and so many managers changing over, that it doesn't really matter as much as it does in the GAA. Like, look at Davy Fitz this year. Look at Liam Cahill this year. If anyone knows how to draw up a plan on Waterford's strengths and weaknesses, it's the guy who's been managing them for the last 3 years. Like, Liam Cahill knows the team inside out, And then obviously, with the likes of Henry Shefflin going up against Brian Cody, Davy Fitz as well, when he comes up against Wexford, he knows that team inside out. It's one of those things that, you have a manager that's managing you, and the next year he could be managing against you. I think it's one of the funniest things that somehow this has seeped into the GAA, and it doesn't really seem to be an issue. I mean, everyone seems to kind of, just it is what it is. Like, and Johnston, I actually agreed with it. Like, I wouldn't want to manage against my sons or something like, do you know what I mean, if I was in his position. So yeah, I think it's fascinating that somehow it's so normal, but when you think about it, it's mad.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. All right. I think last year as well, when Ballyhale played Ballygunner, like there was two players who were cousins or something of that nature in the All-Ireland final. Like, you do just get these sort of storylines that throw themselves up, and it definitely does make it more interesting. Another game that went to penalties: Enniskillen 117, Gauna 214. The Fermanagh champions go through on penalties there. Massive results for Enniskillen there. What were your thoughts on this one? I mean, Enniskillen, obviously Conor Love, like, doing the job there again, a goal and a couple of points. Good performance from him. Gauna looking good as ever as well, but massive result for Enniskillen. And, as we've seen with Fermanagh clubs down the years, like, they're hard teams to put away.
Oh, exactly. You couldn't have worded that last bit better. I mean, I was so impressed with their resolve and their composure when it got to extra time, because right at the start of extra time, Gauna rattled off 3 points in the first 4 minutes of extra time. And, at that stage, if you're Enniskillen, it could be panic stations. Here we go. They've got the run on us in extra time. But they settle down, 2 points from Conor Love, and then obviously Ethan Beresford getting his point, and then they're level. And it goes to penalties. And again, perfect with the penalties. They win 5-3. And for Gauna, it's a real shame, because I thought that they were really, really exciting, actually. I mean, you watch like the goals, some of the goals that they've scored over the club championship. Conor Madden hit a cracker in the Cavan final, the Cavan semi-final. And then remember the Conor Casey goal that went viral as well. That was an absolute belter that he stuck in. So I feel like they have played some fantastic football, Gauna. Obviously, they achieved the achievement of being the first Cavan side to win a club match shown live on RTE. So that's something that they get a nice feather in their cap. But yeah, I feel like, look, they came up against a side that were dogged and determined. There was nothing to separate them really apart from the penalties. I thought at stages you could argue Gauna maybe should have put them away. Like, I mean, they didn't lead the game until the last minute of the game. I think that's it. They went behind. Enniskillen Gales went behind for the first time in the entire game in the last 2 minutes. So again, that speaks to their resolve, because if you're thinking we go behind now in the last 2 minutes, what is this that's against us today? They stayed calm, and then Owen Beacom hits that last minute free, to send them into extra time. And then obviously, Gauna got the run on them and they pulled it back again and then held their nerve in penalties. So this is a side that are dogged and determined. And that's why when you look at it coming up against Kilcoo, I do think they're going to give Kilcoo a way better game than Ballybay did.
100%. Yeah, there was actually Conor Love with 8 points in there. I was looking at a previous match report there, so my apologies there. Monday Blues and all the rest there. Just looking at some other scores on the day. John Rehel there with 4 points. Callum Jones with 1-1. And then for Gauna, you'd Robbie Fitzpatrick in there with 1-2. Conor Casey with 2 points. Conor Madden with 2 points as well. So definitely seemed like a very, very entertaining game by the looks of it. And certainly we'll have to get a look back at it on the TG Carr Highlights show later tonight. As you mentioned there, Kilcoo, they lived up to the hype with a big result against Ballybay. It was Ballybay 1-7, Kilcoo 2-14. I was keeping an eye on the game, and it seemed like Kilcoo were just sort of keeping Ballybay at arm's length. I think they were 5 points up at half time, and really just sort of pulled away in the final couple of minutes. But look, there is a lot of people writing Kilcoo off. There's a lot of people saying, I think according to the bookies, Kilcoo aren't even favourites for Ulster at the moment, which I do find surprising. Like, I know maybe they struggled in down, they struggled to find a way through there. They were going to extra time and time again, but like, Kilcoo are just the masters of finding ways to win. And I think it shows how good of a team, how good of a unit of a team you can be when you're not playing your best and you still come through those games. But as we've seen with Ballybay, like, they're a great side. Like, they beat Crossbyglen, they blew them away. For Kilcoo to dish out a 10-point win away to Ballybay as well, it's a big statement.
Oh, definitely. I think when you look at this game, I did probably expect Kilcoo to win, but I didn't expect them to win like this. 2-14 to 1-7 is an absolute beatdown. And when you look at it, in the first quarter, Ballybay made things very difficult. I mean, that early goal from a penalty from Shane McGuinness, again, scoring from a penalty in the Ulster Club Championship, but they really dragged them into a real dogfight in that first half. But then Kilcoo went on a scoring spree, led at halftime by 8 points to 1-2. But still, for how much better that they were in the first half, again, it was the type of thing that we saw with the Eire Og versus the Glen game, where you're looking at it thinking Kilcoo were not only 3 points better than Ballybay in that first half. I mean, and there could have been a little bit of worries creeping into the Kilcoo dressing room at halftime, but they came out in the second half and just, put Ballybay to the sword. When Ryan Johnson scored that goal, I thought it was a signal that, like, look, we're parting ways here, that we're better than you today. And then the late goal from Micheál Rooney was the icing on the cake. I thought, look, real statement victory. And it could be one of those that you look at it and think, are they playing this almost like champions, kind of sneaking up, sneaking through? Then when they get to Ulster, switched on. Kilcoo of last year is back. Kilcoo of the year before is back. And could they make another run at Ulster? I do fancy them to beat Enniskillen Gaels. I do think it's going to be one hell of a game, though. And then if that sets up a game against the Glen, I think we'll find out how serious Kilcoo are for the All-Ireland again.
Yeah, 9 different scores as well, which really shows their quality, like all across the pitch. Like Aaron Brannigan with 2 points, Ryan McAvoy with 2 points, Micheál Rooney in there with a goal, Ryan Johnson with 1-1. Like they just have so many options all across the pitch, and like much like Kilmacud Crokes, like they're finding options from players coming off the bench as well. And it shows like they're not reliant on just 1 or 2 players. Like they've got so many individuals all across the pitch who can do the damage.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, a team with a strong family influence there, like the Brannigans, the Johnstons. And then obviously they've got legends in there like Paul Devlin. They've got legends in there like Micheál Rooney. I don't think that they have the same zip about them, though, as last year. Even though they had this victory, I still think the Glen are just a little bit ahead of them. I think the Glen have a little bit more determination about them. Obviously, look, they looked very, very sharp in this game. I still would put the Glen just the tiniest bit ahead of them, though. Obviously, I could be made to eat my words if Kilcoo come back and blow everyone out the water and go and reclaim the All-Ireland title. Obviously, you can't predict anything in this club championship. You say someone's going to win the All-Ireland Club Championship and they get knocked out in their county like Mount Bellew did. So it's one of those things where, look, speaking right now, Kilcoo looked like they turned the corner. I didn't think Ballybay played as well as they could, though. And I think when they play Enniskillen will drag them into a real battle of a game. I do think Kilcoo might get through it, but then I think the Glen might just have a little bit too much for them in the final.
Yeah, like it will be, like if it is Kilcoo versus Glen in the final, like it will be a very close game. Like it was only 2 points between them last year. And like, as you said, like with Watty Graham's Glen, like I don't know, like they just haven't, they look like on paper, they have a lot of very, very good players in, as you mentioned, like Glass, Bradley, Conlon McGuckian, who looks very good, I thought, yesterday as well. Like just so much quality all across the pitch, but like they haven't always looked brilliant. Like against Slot-Neil, like they were very, very comfortable. I don't think they were really tested. First half yesterday, like struggled really to get going. I know there was a heavy breeze and all the rest, but I don't know. I just think Kilcoo, like with that siege mentality and all the rest, will be able to turn them over. But as you mentioned previously, like you can't predict anything in these club championships, really.
Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things where how many teams have we seen this season that look great one week and all of a sudden it's, oh God, they have about 4 or 5 inter-county lads down the spine of their team. They're, this side could go so far this year and then they get knocked out in the next round by a team that then become the next, oh God, this team has this person at full forward, this person at centre back. So I feel like, look, one performance, I think we should have learned by now that one performance is not something to get carried away with. I mean, Cross McGlen Rangers were one that the way that they won the Armagh Championship, I was tipping them as definite contenders for the Ulster Championship. And then they get absolutely put to the sword by Ballybay in the next round. So it's one of those where one performance, I feel like we don't get carried away with one performance anymore. I'm more like, right, okay, Kilcoo, great job today. Let's see how you get on against Enniskillen Gaels in the semi-final. If they blow Enniskillen away in the semi-final and the Glen tiptoe past Aaron's old Carrigan in the semi-final, or get taken to extra time by Carrigan in the semi-final, which is possible. I mean, Carrigan did it to a much fancied Naomh Conaill side. Then it could be one of those things where you might see the pendulum swing back towards Kilcoo. Maybe the bookies will switch up their odds. So it's one of those things where I'm saying, look, one more good performance here and I'll be more convinced that Kilcoo are where they were last year.
Yeah, and another team that's definitely put themselves into the conversation, I think they were already in the conversation, is Moycullen in the Connacht Club Senior Football Championship. So it was Moycullen 3-18, Westport 1-11. There was a comment on the match reaction yesterday, I think, saying that this is the biggest score Moycullen have put up in the entire year. Like, they haven't been that high scoring in the Galway Championship. And they did it without Peter Cook as well. And to be honest, I didn't even know he wasn't playing from watching the game. I think that shows how good Moycullen were, because they just absolutely blew Westport out, out of the gate. Like, Westport never really got going at all. Desi Keneally, like, what a performance from him. 10 points. Really, really standout performance from him. And for Moycullen, like, I mean, we've seen with the Galway champions down the years, how strong they can be in Connacht and how tough of a proposition they can be for teams. And yeah, like, to score 3-18 in a club game against the Mayo champions, who many people perceived as probably the second best team in Connacht on paper, that's some statement from the Galway champions.
Yeah, I mean, Keneally just absolutely shot the lights out. You mentioned it there, 10 points, 5 of them from play. And everything that Westport tried didn't work. I mean, they put Lee Keegan onto Desi Keneally, nothing changed. They put Owen McLaughlin in. They called Owen McLaughlin off the bench pretty early. I mean, McLaughlin was not 100% fit by any means. Westport brought him in because they were thinking, God, like, the ship is sinking right now. We need McLaughlin in there. And McLaughlin came in. Very little changed again. I thought that they hit the goals at really, really strong stages as well. Daniel Cox's goal made them 1-11 to 1-4 up before the break. I mean, that would have been a really, really hard position for Westport to come back from, because let's not forget, Westport struck the first goal. They got out ahead, and but then for the rest of the game, I thought Moycullen just absolutely dominated. And I mean, the other goals as well, Owen Kelly and then the other one, Owen Gallagher and Aidan Claffey. Speaking of Owen Gallagher, I mean, he's not a bad addition to the Moycullen side. I mean, the amount of talent that they already had, to bring in a guy, who is originally from Antrim, if I'm correct there, and then, a Galway inter-county player now. I mean, they're looking seriously, seriously strong, especially with the form of Keneally. And Strokestown next, I mean, that's definitely a warning shot to them, how comfortably they beat Westport. Obviously, you have to question the mentality, the way that we spoke about Nemo Rangers earlier. Westport won their first Mayo title. I mean, the celebrations across Mayo, I mean, you would have been looking at maybe a Lee Keegan there. Does he think, finally, I've won, I've won a deserved club championship? Could they have been going into this game with their eye off the ball? Because Moycullen, let's not forget, they won the Galway championship in 2020. This isn't a new thing for Moycullen. They were probably looking bigger and better. They were probably thinking, look, we're not stopping here. We're going All Ireland. And I have no doubt that Moycullen are aiming for that All Ireland club title.
Yeah, well, they have to be favourites for Connacht now. Like, I mean, Strokestown, who will obviously play next, are sort of another very unknown quantity. Like, it's their first time playing in Connacht for all their players, really. First county title in 20 years. So, I mean, it is going to be very, very tough from a Strokestown point of view. But yeah, as you mentioned, like, the talent levels from Moycullen, like 3 goals, 18 points. Desi Keneally, fantastic. Donald Mack in there with a goal. Neil Bretnick with 4 points as well. Some serious footballers in that Moycullen side, and it's gonna be tough to stop them. Like, even All Ireland semi-finals, finals, like, you definitely can't discount them.
Yeah, no, without doubt, because what they've shown in this game as well is they have a brilliant attack, and once they get to Croke Park, once they get to the open pitch, if they come up against a Glen side or a Kilcoo side that are more of a defensive team, getting onto that open Croke Park turf, I mean, that could really put the ball in Moycullen's court. It could be a type where styles make fights type, and if they come up against a side that are more defensive, they get to Croke Park, open pitch, that could really favour them. And you know what? If they come up, like, they really, really could be favourites. If they get to the final, I would not put it past them winning it. I mean, I think every side coming in, I do think Crokes will come out of Leinster. I think it will be one of the Glen and Kilcoo that will come out of Ulster. Probably the Glen if you were to push me on it now. And then I think Clonmel will come out of Munster. And out of those 4, Moycullen have a definite shot of winning the game. I mean, it would be interesting if they get to the final against Crokes and Shane Walsh is playing against Moycullen. I think that would be an interesting one. But yeah, that's a debate for another day.
Yeah, that would certainly be a story, all right, nonetheless. The other side in Connacht that progressed was St. Mary's Kiltaggart of Leitrim. They beat St. Kiernan's of London 3-8 to 1-8. There was a couple of late goals. There was 2 late goals in injury time there for St. Mary's. One from Jack Barnes, another from Nicholas McAwaney. So 2 late goals there from St. Mary's. Heartbreak for the London-based club, but from St. Mary's point of view, look, big win for them. Be going up against Turles Strand in the semi-finals. I'm sure Turles Strand feel the same as St. Mary's, and the chance that, look, it's a great opportunity to possibly get to a Connacht final, which for both Leitrim and Sligo clubs, it does not happen very often.
Yeah, and I mean, for Turles Strand, it's one of those things that, like, they've won 7 Sligo titles in a row. Like, they've had an absolute dynasty up there. So it's one of those things where they can finally convert it into some provincial success. Making it to a Connacht final would be a huge day out for them. For St. Mary's, look, it was a difficult away day. It was played in Ruislip. I mean, that's been a notoriously tricky place to go over the last few years for the Leitrim team as well in general. So to get over the line in this game is a massive result for them. And going into a semi-final now against Turles Strand, look, I do think it will be difficult. Turles Strand, as I mentioned, 7 Sligo titles in a row. They have players like Liam Gavigan. Not Liam Gavigan, but Liam Gahan, sorry. They have players of that caliber, Turles Strand do. And I feel like, look, it's going to be difficult for them to get over the line. Turles Strand have been around the block. They know, what it takes to get over the line in Connacht Club Championship games. Way more than St. Mary's do. They have a lot more experience than them. I think that's going to pay on the day. And I do think Turles Strand will be in the final against Moycullen.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. To be fair, like, I think Turles Strand, given their record in Sligo the last couple of years, given their experience of playing in Connacht, I probably would back them at this moment in time. We will move on to the hurling in just a moment, but I suppose we'll talk about David Clifford once again for Fossa at the weekend, winning the Kerry Junior Football Championship. He scored 212 in total, and actually I have a video here of his goal, so we'll just watch this quickly.
Enrique to Maradona. Different class. Different class.
Yeah, shout out to the sideline eye there for that video. Lovely bit of commentary there as well. I think it was over Maradona's goal, I think in 86 or something like that. But look, I mean, that was just extraordinary. And I know a lot of people were saying, oh, it's junior football and everything else. But like, it's not like he hasn't done it in an All-Ireland final or in a county final. Do you know what I mean? Like still some amount of quality, like regardless of whether it's junior football or not. Like, I think that's just a bit of a strange knock in many ways. But 212. And once again, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say really about him. I think maybe I'll just say what I said on Twitter the other day, which is, I think when it's all said and done, we'll look back at David Clifford in the same light as a Christy Ring, as a Jimmy Doyle, as a Pat Spillane, as a Colm Cooper. Like, I think the David Clifford Cup, like, I think that will be a thing in our lifetime, maybe in 30, 40 years time, or maybe it might be after our lifetime. I don't know, but there will be a trophy somewhere that will be named the David Clifford Cup. I'm very certain of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. That goal that he just scored there, the video that we just watched, that reminds me so much of watching I remember going to the 2017 final with my dad, and we were watching Kerry play Derry in the minor final and just watching him absolutely hit goals for fun. And we were saying, God, I hope Australia take this guy because he's absolutely tearing this game up at ease. And no, it was obvious that, watching him back then, just the absolute power, the finishing, the skill, that he just had it. He had that X factor. He was different to everyone else on the pitch. And he made a minor All-Ireland final. He made that final look like it was a cakewalk, look like it was a training match, made a very good Derry side look, helpless against him. And I mean, he has not disappointed. First year on the senior side, he won an All-Star. We'll all never forget that goal that he scored with Donaghy knocking it down to him against Monaghan at a time when Kerry really needed the captain, the leader. He was made captain at such a young age, and he absolutely has stepped up to the plate. He's been an absolute leader. And the way he was a leader in the All-Ireland final last year at crucial stages when Kerry needed someone to step up and hit crucial points, he stepped up every single time. And look, hitting 212 in a junior game, because you have to be tough to play that well in a junior game. I mean, I've played the odd junior game, and if you're tearing it up, you tend to get a whack of someone. So I could tell you that I guarantee David Clifford was getting slide tackles, kicks, punches, the lot, and for him to still score 212 and then, you know, to run past the entire team, knowing that there was definitely someone on the sideline screaming, "Head on, take him out!" and he still keeps his composure, slots it home. I mean, yeah, one of the greatest already, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to win the match, at least win the fight, as they say. But yeah, like, I mean, it was just extraordinary again. Like, and I was looking through it as well, like in terms of what he's won this year. Like, he's won a McGrath Cup, a Munster title, an All-Ireland title. He's won Footballer of the Year, an All-Star. He's won the county title. He's now won a junior championship title. He played in the Sigerson Cup final, which he didn't win. I'm sure he's disappointed he didn't win that, because what a clean sweep that would have been. But yeah, like just extraordinary. He won the league as well. There's probably something I'm missing in there. Just extraordinary. And like he's probably going to go on a run now in Munster as well. Like obviously in the Munster Junior Football Championship. So like his story, his year isn't going to end just yet. And I mean, it's incredible, really.
Yeah, I've no doubt that there's going to be another story to come. There's going to be another David Clifford hits 116 in a Munster semi-final or something great. Like 212 is bizarre. To be even able to score that much on your own is absolutely ridiculous. Paulie Clifford was very good in that game as well. He hit 1-2. To have them two on your side, that must just fill the rest of the lads with just unbelievable confidence. And to have two lads that, I mean, David Clifford is a superstar now in our game. I mean, we're hearing about, you know, people traveling down all the way down to Kerry, to Foster, to watch David Clifford play in a club match. And, you know, he still comes across as a very humble guy, still comes across like, you know, his feet are firmly on the ground and he's focusing on his craft. And I think he has the right mentality to be an absolute legend in this game. And yeah, he's on the right track for sure.
Yeah, and he scored an absolute wonderful point as well. In just at the end of normal time and injury time to send the game to extra time. So tremendous amount of quality there as well. And be interesting to see how Foster get on at intermediate level next year as well. Be interesting to see if they can make that bridge up into senior level. That would certainly be interesting to keep an eye on. I suppose we do have another video here as well, and it's of the fight at Parnell Park from, well, I don't really know who, to be honest. Both sets of players, fans, coaches, absolute madness. We'll watch some of it quickly here.
Look at Jack! Go! Oh, Jack! Mick, Jack!
Oh my God!
Yeah, just absolute madness there. Like I was saying to you off air, it was like something out of The Walking Dead. You're seeing some chap in a grey jumper and a chap in a black jumper, black jacket behind them, and they're just, you know, desperate to get involved in whatever way they can. Like it was between Naomh Barragh of Dublin and it was Ulart de Balag of Wexford. Yeah, just crazy. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, what's new? I mean, every week in the GAA there's a story coming out. I mean, I do think the issue is getting worse and worse. Like we're hearing about referees being hospitalized, and you know, every week really in the club championship there's a brawl, there's a fight, there's a little melee, there's a little, at the very least there's a little scuffle these days. I mean, it's everywhere in the game. I think if you look at it, the two lads that run down, the guy in the grey hoodie does hit one guy from, you know, obviously the group of lads that they're fighting. I think he waited, and I think your man, if you watch the video, your man hit someone and then the guy in the grey hit him. Look, it's gang mentality, it's mob mentality. It's if you hit mine, I hit one of yours. That type of attitude that has really not crept in. That attitude has been in the GAA for years. I mean, the Dublin Meath games of the 1990s, they absolutely killed each other game after game after game. I do think, and I've been outspoken about this, I think the GAA absolutely loves this. I think the GAA absolutely loves this because for years and years, they have not cracked down. They have not given harsh punishments. I mean, have we seen, like, the perfect example is the Galway Armagh, bro. That's the one I will always go back to. The fact that they're running down the tunnel, we were watching it, myself and we were watching it. We see, a little scuffle looks like it's going to break out. They cut for the ad break, and then they come back. They reverse on the ad break. They come back. Darren Maloney starts talking again. He was just prompted to start speaking. They're showing the fight, and then Maloney comes out with, "This is very unsavory scenes. We don't like to see this in our game." Stop, will you? Go for the ad break then. You love this. You love that everyone's going to watch this. People that aren't even watching the GAA are going to be like, "Oh, what's going on here? Why are they all fighting?" It's one of those things where, look, drama sells. The perfect example is to look at UFC fights. What have been the ones that have done the most numbers? The ones with the bad blood are the ones that get the most eyeballs on it. And let's be real, we wouldn't be talking about Eire Og against Eire Og here on this show if that fight had not have taken place. That's the reason that game is doing the rounds, because a fight happened, because there was bad blood, because there was some drama in the game. But you have to be careful because it escalates to a point where now you have people, and if you listen to a part of that clip, someone saying, "Oh, that old lad is digging a head off an 18-year-old guy," or something like. You have situations where it's actually getting dangerous now. And look, Leinster Council is saying that they're going to investigate the brawl. They absolutely should, because me and you have played GAA, ever since we were kids. There are people at every game that just go, and the second there's a threat or a little chance of a fight, they sprint in like madmen, looking to get involved. It's present in the GAA, and I don't think the GAA does anywhere near enough to stamp it out. So until there's some serious crackdowns, I'm talking rugby level, where if you even speak to the referee, if you're not the captain, you get in trouble, that type of thing. Unless there's serious crackdowns, we're going to see it again and again and again and again. And I guarantee, I'm calling it now, see the way that they're playing Dublin in the league this year and they have Colm O'Rourke as their boss, I'll put all my money down that there's going to be a fight in that game. All my money down, because they're going to bring in a load of lads that played with Meath in the 1990s that weren't afraid of Dublin, and they're going to instill that attitude into the Meath lads coming into the Meath team, and they're going to get Dublin, especially if it's in Port Talton. I don't know if it's in Port Talton off the top of my head, but if it's in Port Talton and they get the dubs up there, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is in Port Talton as well, actually. So you could definitely see a scenario like that developing. But yeah, I don't know what it is. It just seems to be, for whatever reason, there's not enough serious punishments being handed out. As you've been said before, how many brawls have we seen in the GAA this year, and how many times do players get sent off, and then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, they're rescinded? That is just a common thing to happen in the GAA at the moment. There doesn't seem to be as much punishments handed out for these type of things, and I'm sure they'll do an investigation and they will ban some sort of people or whatever. Obviously there was a scenario in Wexford that happened, and I think there was a manager there that got, I think, a 56-week ban or something of that nature, a large ban like that. But does it just seem to be happening all across the board in the GAA at the moment? What do you think? Is it just being recorded more? Is it being picked up more? Do you know, is it because of social media now that these things spread like wildfire? As you've said before, and me and you have kind of talked about this off air, this definitely has been a thing that's always happening, but at the same time, it does seem to be just getting out of hand, and it's happening in high profile games. And I don't know if it's because everyone's just pissed off with the cost of living crisis or everything. I don't really know what it is, but people just seem to be very, very angry at the moment, because whatever between players fighting, but when you're having just regular fans, there was obviously in that clip as well, there was I don't know if we've seen it in that particular clip, but there was a woman that went over with a hurl and to hit someone in the back of the head. It's just how can you in your right mind think that's okay? It's bad enough for the players, and I can understand the physicality and everything else, and obviously when you're man marking someone, there'll be going at you and you'd be going back like right, you know, all the rest. But for the fans and everything else to be getting involved, like, it's just absolutely mental in my opinion.
Yeah, because the worst bit about that clip was the players stopped fighting. If you watch that clip back, the players are actually standing looking at the crowd like, what is going on? Like a proper brawl is broken out in the crowd over whatever's happening on the pitch. The players stop fighting and the fans keep going. And I said this, and I'm saying it now, I'm calling it now. There is going to be, if you're an NBA fan or if you know about the NBA, the Malice at the Palace, Detroit Pistons against Indiana Pacers, where the fight started on the court and ended up in the crowd. The Armagh Galway brawl was right on the Cusack stand, right beside the Cusack stand. The brawl between Armagh and Tyrone in the league that had 5 players sent off, that was right on the end line, like right on the end line. And you're saying that, look, could there be a stage? Could there be something where there's a real hothead player there and a fan throws a bottle or a coin or a lighter or something and it hits a player and the player goes for the fan? I mean, look at it, like it's happened in other sports. Why can't it happen in the GAA? Especially with the way that we're talking here, right? We were speaking earlier about how the GAA is a lot more closed in. It is a lot more like people know your business and people know who you're related to, etc. What if there is some personal stuff here? Say Kilcoo play someone. I'm not saying Kilcoo are like a bad team, whatever, but I'm saying, say a club team plays another club team and one of the fans that's right on the sideline knows something about one of the players that's on the pitch, and they can say something during a brawl to the player when they're already fired up, their temper's already gone. What's to stop this going into the crowd? Oh, all the security that's at GAA matches. There's no security at GAA matches. I mean, there's literally guys with a high vis jacket on who, when they see fists swinging, what? Oh yeah, because they get paid so well, they're going to jump in and break that up. Like, no chance. So the only thing that stops a mass brawl happening is common sense. But, you know, we're relying on that a little bit too much now. And I'm not saying that, you know, we need to come in, you know, guns blazing, but we do need to look at what is the mentality that causes this and tackle it more of a psychological type of way, that I'd say. Look at it as, why is this, you know, at such a level in the GAA? I don't think that the problem has got worse. I just think it's becoming more visible now. I think that if we all had cameras like we did in the 1990s, I'm sure that there would have been a video coming out every week of a scrap at a GAA match. But like, it does seem, because of the amount of videos that are flooding through, like, sure, remember the Wicklow one a few months ago there, where a coach hit a player or something and then everyone was fighting, and that was at an under 15 match. Obviously, the referee getting hospitalized. Like, there does seem to be a new case of violence at a GAA match pretty much every month, 2 months, like 2 months max. So we do need to look at psychologically, why is this happening? Because realistically, that Wexford coach that was banned for 56 weeks or whatever, me and you both know he can show up and use somebody else's name at a junior match or something, and he'll be able to stand on the sideline. Like, what is the ref going to do? Go up to every coach at a junior match and be like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Like, he can go. There's nothing really stopping him. There's no one at the, you know, there's no one at the gate of the park checking who everyone is. ID, please, sir. Yeah, you're not allowed into this game. You got banned 52 weeks ago. Like, he'll be back before that 56-week suspension is up. So we need to tackle it from more of a realistic point. Psychologically, why is this happening? Why are players getting into fights all the time? Why are fans now starting to get involved in the fights? Why are managers getting involved in the fights? And tackle it more from a realistic point where it actually is sustainable.
Yeah. Pie Faces says soccer hooligan culture in the GAA now sad but true. Like, wouldn't go as far as that, to be honest, but like, I do see your point. I do think there is a lot of more of these sort of incidents that do seem to be happening. And as you said there, like, I don't know how like the GAA fixes this. I think they just need to be more strict on punishments. I think that needs to be the thing. As you said, it's a hard thing to manage because you can ban fans, but at the same time, how do you control them coming in? Like, we've all been to Parnell Park before, and I'm sure it's the same across a lot of other provincial grounds up and down the country. Like, they just don't have the manpower or the security to be going to these games, unfortunately. Like, especially when, like, this was an intermediate game, I think. Like, you know, you just don't have the manpower to be going to so many games all across the country. So I'm not sure how they go about fixing that. You know, and the sad thing is, as you said, like something could, you know, very tragic could happen here. Like something very, very bad could happen here. And then everyone gets the wake up call. Like I don't want to look back on soccer culture or whatever, but there's been some very tragic things that have happened in that sport before. And that's when people have woke up and then been like, right, we need to fix this. We need to address this. And I don't know if the same thing is going to happen in the GAA. I hope they sort of come to their senses before something like that happens. But it could happen. Like, you only have to look at Loudmead back in 2010 as well, when the referee was being attacked by fans and everything else. And obviously they've cut out pitch invasions in Crow Park, you know, like, which is good, I suppose. Like, you know, I don't really know if it changes too much, to be honest. Like, I think pitch invasions happen up across the country anyways. But yeah, like, it's, I mean, I suppose we could go on and on about it, but it's just something definitely needs to be changed too.
Yeah, no, because that brawl as well in the crowd. I mean, bear in mind, I don't know if people are watching this have ever been in Parnell Park. If someone got cracked there, like proper knocked out, it's just pure concrete behind. Like, it's pure concrete steps with edges, very sharp edges in Parnell Park. If someone gets cracked there and falls back of the head, and that could be seriously, seriously dangerous, and that could have been tragic. So we do need to think about that, because movies and stuff like this and everything that we consume in, you know, in movies that we watch have really made people underestimate how much damage can be done by one punch, especially when you're not expecting it. Like Ryan O'Dwyer, one of the hardest hurlers that we've ever seen play. Sure, he got his whole jaw, cheekbone shattered because of one punch coming in at the side that he was not expecting when he was over in England. This happens. Like, people's heads are not bulletproof. Like, if you hit, there's a reason that, you know, boxers wear gloves, UFC fighters wear gloves. Like, it's one of those things that we need to be careful with this. I do get that. Look, you know, clubs, it's tribal, it's where you're from. And if someone that you care about gets hit, you know, that instinct takes over and you do want to help out your friend and the person that you love and care about. But, you know, when it gets to a stage where you have like a woman smacking a guy on the back of the head with a weapon, like a hurl can be an absolute weapon. Smacking someone over the back of the head with a hurl, that's so dangerous. Like, and the first thing the GAA needs to do, I think, is they need to come out with a statement, and a real statement, where the GAA president comes out and says, right, from now on, whatever you do with a GAA match carries the same punishment if you did it outside of a GAA match. So if you punch someone on the sideline, that is the same punishment if you punched someone and it was not on the sideline. If you assault someone on the pitch, it's the same as if you assault someone off the pitch. And then we would see the rate of it go down, especially when there's cameras and phones everywhere. You know, a match ban, because we're getting a lot of people coming in who aren't necessarily typical like they're not diehard GAA fans. So if a fight kicks off and they hit someone and they get involved in the fight, and then all they get is a GAA ban, they're not really going to lose too much sleep over it. They're not going to be like, oh my God, I'm devastated. Like, they've avoided serious punishment for what deserves serious punishment. So yeah, that should be the first thing I'd say. Come out with a statement where you make it clear that this will not be tolerated anymore, and then go from there.
Yeah, and you know what, you make a great point there as well. Like, I think if either one of us now were to walk out in the street and hit someone over the head with a hurl, you know, you're talking about, that's assault. You know, you could be talking about jail time. You know, if you hit someone randomly on the street, and you know, that's assault. Like, you could be talking about jail time, prosecution, and who knows what could happen if they fall, hit their head. You know, there's been stories before of people hitting people and someone hits their head and unfortunately passes away. It's happened. There's stories of it that's happened up and down in this country and abroad as well. So definitely hope the GAA can clamp down and the guards get involved there. We'll run through some of the hurling results. So Ballyhale Shamrocks 5-25, Castletown 15 points. Demolition there for Ballyhale Shamrocks. Very, very comfortable win. 25-point win in the end for Ballyhale. And it was Naas 4-21, Shinrone 18 points. So what a story for Naas. Obviously intermediate champions last year. Intermediate All-Ireland champions. They've obviously won the Kildare title. They're going into the senior championship. for the very first time, taking on the Offaly champions. And look, I backed Naas to win this one. I just think if you are All-Ireland intermediate champions, it shows the quality that you have. And obviously Shinrone winning their first ever Offaly title, I think. But to win by a scoreline like that, like that's a big result. 15-point result, 15-point win. That's some hiding that they gave Shinrone.
Oh, I mean, that's crazy impressive. I mean, 421 to 18 points. Massive shout out, of course, Jack Sheridan with 111. Like, then the other goals, I think I have it here. The other goals, James Burke, Charlie Sheridan, Kevin Ahern. I think man of the match, Kieran Cleary as well. Him being missing for Shinrone, that was a big loss, but Naas were just brilliant. Naas were fantastic. The spread of scores as well. I know I mentioned Jack Sheridan hit 111, but on top of that, the scores were coming from everywhere. The hurling looks great, and Kildare hurling is on the rise. 4 Kildare titles in a row for Naas, and now All-Ireland Intermediate champions. Fantastic side. And look, going up now, they get to play Ballyhale Shamrocks, who are obviously no TJ Reid in this game. Didn't bother them in the slightest. 525 to 15 points. Just, and as you mentioned, absolute demolition job. Owen Cody with 2 goals and 9 points. Colin Fennelly with 2 goals and 2 points. Niall Shortall with 1-2. I mean, obviously, you have to give a shout out to Niall O'Brien. He had 8 points for Castletown. But, I mean, they were out of their depth in this game, unfortunately, for Castletown. Like, Ballyhale just looked streets ahead of them. And with TJ to come back in, they look damn good again.
Yeah, like, and I suppose from an Ace point of view, like, obviously a huge win against Shinrone, but you'd wonder, like, if they're on the other side of Leinster, if they were going up against the Kilmacud Crokes, or a St. Mullins, like, how would they get on there? Like, they're coming up against probably the best team in the country, so it's just going to probably be a massive step up for them. But as you said before, like, the amount of work that's been done at Naas in the last couple of years, like, there's a real rise of hurling in that county, and it'll be interesting to see if it can translate into the inter-county team in the next couple of years. But them against Ballyhale, look, Ballyhale will be serious favourites, but I mean, like, Ballyhale probably will win comfortably, but at the same time, Naas putting up a score like that, it shows that they're a serious team, and they definitely can't be taken lightly.
Yeah, sure. I mean, all you need is to look at other teams in the past, like Mount Leinster Rangers from Carlow. I mean, they caused serious amount of upsets in Leinster a few years ago. Like, there have been examples of club teams from counties that wouldn't necessarily be hurling counties. Like, I mean, look at how close Lochneil came to Ballygunner in last year's semi-final. I mean, like, there is serious potential here for Naas to just go in and play with a bit of abandon and just go, you know what, we're just going to absolutely go for it. We're just going to go for it from the minute go, put 100% into it and see what happens. Because Ballyhale got taken to extra time last year by the Offaly champions. I think it was Tullaround took them. Was it Tullaround took them next time? I could be getting that wrong.
No, it wasn't Tullaround.
Whoever the Offaly champions were last year, that has genuinely just slipped my mind. But I do know that the Offaly champions took Ballyhale Shamrocks to extra time. And this is before they played Clock Ballacolla in the final. And Clock Ballacolla had beaten Crokes. That was why people thought, potentially Clock could cause a bit of an upset with Ballyhale. Obviously, they didn't. No, you're looking at it thinking, look, the Offaly champions of last year took Ballyhale to extra time, and Naas have just beaten the Offaly champions of this year. So there is a window there where you could look at it and say, look, Naas could give them, a better game than people think that they will. I do think Ballyhale will win. I think Ballyhale are going to win Leinster. I think Ballyhale are seriously likely to win the All-Ireland. So, look, I don't think that they're going to be stopped in Leinster, that's for sure. But it'll be interesting to see who comes out of the other semi-final as well between Kilmacud and St. Mullins. And who can potentially knock Ballyhale off the throne. Yeah,
it was St. Ryan's of Offaly last year. They beat after extra time, actually. So, I mean, that's, as you said, look, definitely going to be interesting. It'll be an intriguing game to keep an eye on. It was St. Mullins 119, St. Aidan's of 117. So the Carlow champions progressed there. And then Kilmacud Crokes 218. Clock Ballacolla 112. So Kilmacud Crokes getting revenge on Clock Ballacolla. Oisin O'Rourke with 111 in that game. So very impressive performance from him. And I suppose from a Crokes point of view, like, massive for them, because obviously that result last year against Clock Ballacolla, like, it would have really hurt them. And I think, as we've said before, like, it is a bit of a different team this year. It's a younger side. So to get that result, Like, I don't think anyone's expecting them to beat Ballyhale. It would be a massive, massive feat if they did that. But huge, huge result, and they'll have eyes on a Leinster final now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting semi-final because, I mean, for Mullins to beat Fern St. Aidan's, the Wexford champions, like, you'd be looking at that thinking, purely say if you didn't really know much about the club championship, you would say, well, surely the Wexford champions will beat the Carlow champions. But Mullins are fantastic in this game. Marty Kavanagh, 12 points, outstanding. I know 11 of them were from frees, but his accuracy from them is unquestioned. And then obviously they have the Nolans in there as well, superb players. On the flip side, I thought St. Aidan's never really got to their maximum level. Then in the other game, Kilcoo Crokes had a bit of a scare at the start. Clonmel hit them quite early, 5 points to 2 up. The support that they brought with them to Parnell Park was fantastic. But Crokes hit goals at crucial stages. Oisin O'Rourke, his goal was fantastic. 111 from him. I mean, surely he has to be in the Dublin team, especially when you're talking about like Chris Crummey's not going to be there next year. Cian O'Callaghan's not going to be there next year. 2 massive losses to the Dublin team. They need a bit of injection of some serious talent into this team. And Oisin O'Rourke does have talent. 111 from him. He was the best player in the Dublin hurling final this year as well. So surely he goes in. But I mean, if we've seen anything, I mean, Sean Curry was the best player in the Dublin hurling final the year previous, and he didn't even get a look in. So, I mean, for O'Rourke, I hope he gets his chance again because he has got his chance before. Didn't quite nail down a place the first time round, but I think he looks way, way better now. And look, I hope he gets in. The other goal as well, I have it here. The other goal came from Brendan Scanlon in the 17th minute. Fantastic finish. I mean, brilliant, brilliant finish. Wasn't really expected that he would go for it, but he did. Fantastic goal. And they just came at crucial times because those 2 goals came within 11 minutes after Clonmel had the really good start. And after Crokes kind of killed the momentum of that initial start that Clock had, I think the game was theirs from that point on.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like with Oisin O'Rourke, like surely Micheál O'Donoghue is going to look at that and think about getting him in the side. Like, and obviously Liam Rush, Danny Sutcliffe probably maybe slowing down a little bit now. You'd have to feel so. Definitely the injection of some new young players would definitely help Dublin. Dublin's, I suppose, bid in Leinster next year. Poi says here, who do you think will win Connacht? I think we both said we both fancy Mike Cullen to come through that one. I suppose before we finish up, what was your club moment of the week?
Interesting. For me, Aaron's own Cargan, first victory outside of the Antrim Championship. I think that was absolutely outstanding achievement for them, and the celebrations at the end really showed. I mean, twice, as I mentioned, they looked dead and buried. Kevin McShane hits the goal in normal time to save them and then hits the free to save them in extra time as well, and then straight into penalties, and they win. I think that was an outstanding moment for the club championship, and again, just a magic one. Shows that anyone can have their day.
Yeah, I suppose for myself, it's a difficult one. I mean, I'd probably go along with that as well. Like, obviously, huge win for Cargan on penalties. Clifford, I mean, he's kind of the obvious one, isn't it? Obviously, for his performance for Fossa. I think he nearly...
with Clifford, like, what's new?
yeah. It's like you kind of just need to create something else, you know. I think, you know, Clifford already has his thing, you know.
Yeah, like if David Clifford, like, go play golf now, do something else.
Yeah.
Like, do you see that about Haaland? When Haaland scored, I think he scored the hat trick against Man United, and this tweet did the rounds, and was some pundit being like, "What a loser, Haaland! Like, stop scoring goals, like, go away, you weirdo." Like, it was like Clifford is almost reaching that level where it's like, yeah, what's new? He scored 212.
Yeah,
it's that good.
Absolutely mental, like. But yeah, like you see some people sometimes say like, "Oh, Haaland's only scored 3 goals in the last 2 games. He's slowing down a bit there, you know."
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, but yeah, I suppose
if Clifford was any good, he'd score 216.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much at the level that he's got to now. He's, you know, I think I would already say that, like, in terms of the level he's got to, I've never seen a player be as good as David Clifford is. Like, I know that over their career, like the likes of Colin Cooper, the likes of Kevin Heffernan say have probably done more, but like in terms of the level, I've never seen a player with my own, like physically seen a player be as good as David Clifford is. He's frighteningly good.
Yeah, especially at this age as well. Like, I think when you look back at even like
he's 23.
Yeah, like I think when you look back at like Peter Canavan or Bernard Brogan, Jerry McConnelly as well, like
Yeah,
serious
McConnelly
talent.
was unbelievable. Like I think there's one. There's one game I watched highlights of it the other day. I think there was a game against Donegal 2014, the one that Dublin lost. But if you watch Connolly's performance in that, it's absolutely insane. Like the kicks the scores he's getting, just insane. So yeah, he'd be right up there for me, and at his peak as well.
Yeah. So I'll probably go with that. I mean, Rory Canavan's dummy and point as well was absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant.
it was a good moment.
Another great point for the Hoyler Reel. Mike Cullen's obviously big win as well. 3-18 in a club game against the Mayo champions without one of your best players in Peter Cook. I think that's fairly impressive as well. But yeah, Seamus, cheers very much for coming on. I suppose if anyone's looking to find your own podcast, Play on GAA, where can they find it?
Yeah, they can find it on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Spotify. Yeah, all platforms. Just Play on GAA. Just trying to make it bigger and better every time.
Perfect. Well, make sure for people to go and check that out. And if they could leave a like and subscribe, be very much appreciated. Cheers, Seamus, for coming on.
No worries, Aaron. Thank you for having me.